Well, welcome to the Dream Labs. I am Dr. Contrast, and we're live. And boy, my goodness, I'm glad to be back on board here today. And the good news is, I think this is going to be a nice little sum up here. The primary focus for today's stream is going to be the wrapping up this illustration for the HS 108P series we've been working on for the last 4 or 5 sessions. I think this is the final go around, maybe section 5 or 6. We've got on some good information put together, so I think we finally have a resolve on the final of the aircraft with design system, and also a nice simple setup for just the presentation illustration. So I'm going to walk you through just a real quick review here, and we'll get right down to business and wrapping up the final illustration. I started some little pieces and parts on the final illustration to kind of save a little bit of time and not occupy too much of the dead space. But we'll go back in and look at this thing, and hopefully at the end of the day here we'll have a resolve on the final illustration, at least one of 2. I'll probably finish one up today, and I've got another setup as well that I want to complete 2 different series. So nonetheless, thank you so much for being on board. Looking forward to hearing from you if you're live and listening. If not, feel free to tune in later on and let me know how you feel about this setup here. So real quickly, I think this goes back about 3 sessions ago. This is some of the little rough color studies we did from line drawings on getting the plan form down, and this is a front 3/4 study of this HS series, and pretty well flat system. It was a semi-blended wing combat aircraft, but a little more adventuresome, a little more innocuous and evil looking. We wanted more of an intimidating process to work with here. So that was a little line study here with a very flat upper level wing and a lower level wing, rearward canopy and munition systems on the upboard of the wings, and that little shark, the hammerhead shark little platform for munitions as well. So that was a front 3/4 of that same design system. And then this was the rear 3/4. Again, looking at it from the rear, a little bit of a different wing configuration up on top. Just kept changing some little things here and getting a little sweeter with it and revising some things as we went through the process. But again, notice a very upper level, very flat plan form with a blended wing, and that same lower quadra wing below. Munition systems again, very typical. Just looking and analyzing where are we headed with this thing, what does it begin to look like, how do we want to detail it, and what things we need to add to it to make it much more, for lack of another word, very enemy looking and very intimidating. So that was a rear 3/4. So from that series, the first 2 studies here, let's do this. That one and that one, those 2 front, one was front, one rear. We went into another variation on theme here. I got those done. Okay, let's see if we're a little more dramatic with this thing. So we took that wing system and went right into what I refer to as almost an enveloped polar triangle, very angular looking system here. So we took those wings and dropped them down a little bit, got more of a butterfly look to it, and came back in and just did a little line study on a front 3/4 and an elevation. And it looked a lot more intimidating. It didn't have that same flat aircraft look. It had a much more evil looking plan form and elevation study. So that really was very helpful to look at here. Line study, 3/4 front, and then again its companion in elevation. And from that, when a couple little color studies here, and it started to take on a presence about that I thought was much more packageable from the very things that we're all doing in the last few weeks, getting this process put together. So finally getting into an area here where this started really telling me about, okay, this is a resolve. Let's take this thing a little further and refine it a little further and get this thing moving here. So that was a front study, front 3/4. Then went back in and did the same thing here. Went into a front elevation, just a line drawing of the front elevation to get that all set up. And it looked a little real promising. What you don't see here, for example, use this pen here to illustrate. If you look at this, here's the upper wing. That area right in here is the dead space. And then this is the lower platform wing, that quadrant we're dealing with to get this the vehicle and the aircraft escort fighter resolved. So from that, I went into this, did a little line study, and then I did a full color study. Here, a little review to make it, again, notice that white space in between here. That's where the split is, upper wing, lower wing, and developed a little further as we went through it. A little color study. And then last but not least, I thought, well, maybe a future reference would be kind of interesting to see if we've got this HS-108 set and we have a final design system, which is this part of the process here. What happens in the next generation? So I just took a moment here last week and went through a couple little thumbnail studies. That's black and white pen sketches on what the next generation might look like. And this started to look a little healthy here. Basically, the polar triangular section very upper wing, upper blended wing, and the lower cantilever underneath it. What would it look like if we do a second generation? A little bit of a plan form, and again, an elevation study. A little different here in the elevation. I thought this was a little healthier here. As far as maybe phase 2, somewhere down the line, we'll bring it back up again and revise some of the platform work. So that was sketch 1. Again, next generation of HS. Then another little study here, getting a little more wicked in terms of really full, very big, full wing platform here, the upper level and the same the lower below, and munition system. Just changing the character a little bit and still maintaining the rear cockpit. And a lot more advanced looking, a lot more aggressive looking up on the top with the wing surface here. So that's where we are in terms of getting it going. That's a quick review. Now let me switch gears here and show you in sequence. Let me get these aside for a moment. Thank you. Let's go back and look at the sequence. Now from that, I went into that final line study, the final design concept that we looked at here. Let me just bring it back here for a second. I'm going to get this guy back on board for just a moment. This was the line study, I think, that we kind of looked at and said, yeah, this looks pretty healthy. So we took that form right there. That was the one that I think that really kind of pushed it over the edge and gave us some real direction in terms of getting into a final illustration here, which we're going to show you today. So that was it in terms of putting it into context. And what I did is put together the at rest, at the base, very simple, putting a little bit of architecture behind it. So a little bit of scale to give it some human scale, put that together. And this became a nice line band study. So from that, I went from that line stitch into getting into a good start with a nice final illustration. So there we are, just about there with some of the, I'm going to finish up here today, some of the very detailed work in getting this static display of this HS series in illustration form. So again, the architecture filled in, a little bit of sky tone added, and we'll fill in some of the blanks here today to get that rolling. So let me do this for a moment. Let me just get this out of the way, and we'll go back in and finish this up and make sure that's going to stay. That's going to stay there. That'll come with me. There we are. And then this, I'll get some good paper underneath this thing to kind of bleed in some of the marker paper. Here we are. So there we are. Let's go back in and let this thing finish here. So thank you for your patience with me. But I thought, you know, this is a nice, a good way to show this thing in a static display. We don't do that very often. Normally I show them in flight or another variation theme altogether here. So let me just walk you through. We'll kind of wrap this thing up and get a good final illustration piece on this. So if I move the paper around a little bit, please forgive me. I just want to get some good brush systems in here and get it moving. So here we are. A little bit of tone here. Get the basic surfaces in. With that tail section, get the wing structure down. A little bit of tint back here. Get that all set. Get that tail section in. Let's see if we go ahead here a little bit more where the light source is. Get a little bit more tint on that side. Get that taken care of. A little bit of study underneath here. Again, one more pass here. A little more tint. A little bit of upper shadow here. A little more wing surface. Body form. Tail section. And again, just making it in a little bit here. Hey, Antares, how are you? Hi, Doc. Good to see you. Great. Sorry, I missed today, but I'll sure watch it back. Oh, not a problem. We'll make sure we get that thing all squared away. Hope you're doing well, Antares. Thank you so much. We're just going to go through the process of finishing up this final the design display on the static display of the new machine we're working on here. So it's going to be fun. Let me go back here. Let's get this all set up. Let's kind of go get this number 4 in place here. Get this thing in. So we get this done here. Get that with the tail section here. Get that shadow where that tail section drops away. Separate one form to the other. That's that. And more shadow in this thing. Where the light source is coming from. That's that. Let's come back in again here and get the same number 3 gray in the platform here. Let's get this thing really kind of solidly laid in here. And take it back here and get that second piece in place here. Let's get this little bit of shadow off of that reverse canard here that we're looking at. And a bit of shadow coming off of this. There it is. Let's get this guy here. A little more tint than that. And let's make sure we get this far side wing structure in place. Let's tint that in. Get that all set up here. Get that little bit of that draw here on that intake up front. Get that little detail set up. Come back and tune this in just a touch. And there it is. Now let's get back in here. Get that one area here knocked out. This little bit of an undercut on the under wing. Place that in, get that set up. Take that, get that dark area in, get that placed in place. That. Let's get that number 3 gray. Get a little bit of tint shadow underneath this landing gear piece here. That's that. Let's go a little heavier with this upper piece here. Go to number 5 gray. I think we up right here. Let's get this all set up. Let's get back and get this number 3 gray, a little more tint in this thing. Away from the light source. Gonna frame that in. Get the munitions down. Let's get this down here. This underwing. Gray, a little more tint on this side here. That's that. Let's get this, pardon me for moving this around a little bit. Let's get this upper piece put in. A little bit of that wind glove. And let's get this down here. Get that number 1 gray and bring that back into play here. Get this down. Oop, there we are right there. This little tail section here put together. And let's see here. Come above with this. That same break there. Come back in. I rotate the pad here just for a moment and get some little detail working here. There we go. Got the gills in place. Get that number 4 gray one more time. Get that little upper canopy all set. And one more time, a bit of shadow coming off of that light source here. And we'll get that all lined up. Number 5, pull that into place. Looks pretty good there. Let's get this munition system in place now, like we did on the far side here. This guy, a little bit of tint here, there, running through that. That's good. Same thing here. A little touch of that here, and I think we're good. That coming into that landing gear area. Let's see. Let's get a little more shadow back here off of that. The rear end of that cockpit area here. Again, where that light source is. Got that indicated. A little more shadow on this thing. And let's take this tint off this. That shadow off that wing. That's about as deep as it's going to get. It's coming pretty close to where we need to be here. So let's put a little bit of detail in some of the uniforms now here. Let's get these guys lined up. Both pilots. Show a little bit of that number 6 gray if I can here, somewhere in there. Yeah, there it is. I'll leave it aside for a moment. So I put a little bit more detail in here. Canopy, canopy. That's that. Let's get a little bit of this in here. Just kind of a nice neutral gray here, keeping it simple. set here. And a little bit of light source shadow here. I'm going to take about a number, maybe about a 3 should do it. Ooh, I lose it. There it is. There's a little more tone here. Right? Let me bring this back to square here. So far we're building a pretty good case here. So far, I think we got it. Number 3 gray. A little darker there. Darker there. Let's get this kind of a little deeper with that. Not quite as bold as it needs to be here. Number 5 gray. Let's see what that does. And let's see, 4 gray. So I put that in place here. Shadow, tint there. Let's get back a little bit of pen detail here. Hey, interior auto security. I just looked up. Sorry about the notation here. Yeah, I just picked up your question. Yeah, we have done that. I've done when I was with Sid Mead, for example, at CCS in Detroit. Let me just get this lined up here, folks. What we did is a lot of things we did for like advanced aircraft design. Some of the projects we were given, yeah, a lot of that costume design or uniform was part of the design process to get it all squared away. So yeah, we had a lot of that, quite a bit, Tara. So great question, but I just want to give this some sort of identity for scale here. I'm just going to get this lined up here. A little more tint here, some shadow on this lower piece here. We got it. A little bit of graphic nomenclature in there. Got it. Back and forth here. Hope this is still on screen here. Sorry about that. What do you think? What do you think, Antares? So far, so good. Pretty interesting composition. I just want to keep it nice and simple. Very strong architectural piece at ground level. Just doing some neat stuff with this thing. So hopefully the shield will work. That's that. And that. Let's see, we're coming up. Just looking at some of the detail work we've got to get squared away yet. Oh, let's get this guy lined up here. Just one last little tweak in that shadow when that landing gear housing is, and we should be in pretty good shape. That's better. That's better. I don't know. I don't want to push it too far here. I think that's got enough of an envelope to kind of work with here in terms of what we're looking for. And let's put the little shadow underneath this guy. There it is. So. There it is. I think that's pretty well settled in terms of what we want to look at as far as the UFO composition is concerned. Maybe a couple more passes here. Let's see if I can get this down to right here. Get this little bit of reversal blade on this guy. Get that down. A little bit of touch of color back here I think will help on that tail canard. Let's get that down. That down. And just a little bit more detail in this thing. Let's get this guy. A little more tint on that upper wing here to kind of, and a little bit of shadow here to separate this thing like we've done on this one here, the one up close. We have that one in place. Have that one in place. And just in case, one more pass here. Shadow back in here. Where was I here? There we are. And just a touch of, a hint of, a little bit of contour or break across the top of that form here. Shadow, more shadow, and just a bit more shadow. There it is. So, what do you think, gang? This all straightened away here. Let's get this one number put in place here. Yeah, I think that was the intent. Thanks very much, Antares. That was the intent of giving that very angular look to the buildings and kind of complement the aircraft and what they're doing as far as scale is concerned or character. So that was spot on here. You got it. Let's get this little number placed in here. Vehicle number 7. Just a little bit more tint underneath this guy, this munition system here. That does it there. And I think I'm going to hear just a little bit in the end. And for what it's worth, I think that's just about going to resolve it. I mean, I don't want to go any further in making a mess out of this thing. But what do you think? As far as that reading, all right, from your perspective, gang? Could go a little further with that upper canopy piece. I think number 2 gray. There it is. Just to be safe. That's better. Break that edge a little bit. Oh yeah, forgot that long little piece underneath here. Get that guy all straightened up. There we are. Little warning light. And maybe just a touch darker in some of the shoes here to kind of ground these guys a little bit, and they're not floating here. Number 6 gray should do it. That's better. And there it is. So. Off and running. Let's put a little bit of a marker here, lining up the actual vehicle. A bit of an indication here of start, etc. And let me get these organized here. I'll just put a little bit of come back here to this thing just for a moment, and I'm going to just tighten down some of these. Now, last but not least, I'm going to throw a little bit of temper in this beauty, and off we go. Put that aside for a bit. I think that's enough of that. That illustration down here. There it is. That's that. And I'm going to try something else here real quickly here, just to make sure we're in good shape. I do it with that pencil. Somewhere in here. It escapes me when I do that. Oh, there it is. Give this just a little bit more character here. Probably I could stand on this edge to make sure we've got a really good solid line here to work with. Just going to keep this thing nice and structural. And that's that. And we should be in good shape. So, what do you think, gangs? Nope, we're good. I think we got them right. Or you got them white pencil. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good point here. Let's try this in terrace. Let's get a little bit bolder with this thing so we can see them a little clearer. That's that. And we have this one. And that should do it. A little bit of highlight on that canopy, but I don't think we're going to need it. I think that's pretty good shape as far as the overall intent here. And there it is. So what do you think, gang? That's it. Reads well, I think. How the building, ooh, those white lines. Nice touch. Yeah, just nice and simple. Again, I think that was the intent today, was to get this thing in a situation where it was nice and resolved. All the elements of building this whole form up over the period of time, I think, was well worth it. I think we have one here that really makes a good, solid statement. So I'm really well pleased with the overall concept here that we've got to deal with here. So let me just do something real quick here, and we shall do the following. That to me is a wrap. That thing's got a pretty good side at it here. So, as I said, I think I wanted to do 2 or 3 compositions on this one. I think we're going to wrap this up here next week. And Terry, you got to stay tuned. Moving into a whole new discipline, landscape architectural design. And a week after that, we're going to do advanced watercolor Lamborghini stuff, and just started to change the menu quite a bit. Now we've got this. This took a lot of time, because I felt when we did it initially a year ago, it had some interesting things to it, but it just didn't have the impact or the punch that an attack aircraft should have had. So I thought it was very interesting that we got this thing up and running, did it all over again, looked at research, did some other interesting things about what we were after, and I think this resolve really helped well. So let's do this. Let's get rid of this guy. We'll bring it back in a moment here. That's the finished plate 1 of the HS-108P, and I also did this. Here's a line study, just for what it's worth. Here's a line study of phase 2. So I put that one together, and different view, but again, lineup of 3 with the canopy up, and again, a static display. I just thought kind of a neat looking deal here. It's been really cool to follow through the process. This turned out, thank you very much, Antares. So far, so good. But I think we're going to phase 2. We've got some really hot looking aircraft stuff. We won't do that for quite some time. But if we're going to do a phase 2 or a whole new program for an attack aircraft or some sort of a convoy piece for Star Citizen, we'll definitely do that. So here's a line drawing. I thought, well, that first one was good. I mean, this told a story. This one told a good story. It kind of wrapped it up at static, different 3/4 front view, etc. Not bad. But then again, you know what? I thought, let's try this. So I started to just jump on this guy a little bit. There's phase 2. What do you think, Antares? There she is. 3 of them lined up. Different set of architectural pieces. Not quite as architectural, but a little bit more formidable. I think they're very, very Teutonic looking, straightforward. But this was sketch 2. And I think I'm going to go ahead and finish this one up too, to get this thing on the map and get it out of the way and let it become part of the process for the wrap-up of this whole HS-108 108P. I think once we get the detail in, and I'll give the aircraft the same character we have in the other sketches we just looked at here, I think we'll have a lot more interest to work with here. Some little pieces and parts we have to put together here, and I'm going to work on it throughout the course of the week. But again, for next Wednesday, be sure to tune in. I pulled out a publication I did some time ago on a lot of our landscape architecture, from concept design to site plan work, etc. So I'm going to show that one next week. But I think this is going to be wrapping it up, and we'll get this up on some print form. And for people to purchase, they want to, I'll be happy to put that up on my website and get it all squared away. So I just started to detail this guy to give it this kind of character. That kind of character in the aircraft. Very simple, straightforward, nothing extremely interesting in terms of composition, but just a different view. Question there. These taller variants of the aircraft also have an interesting character. I like the aircraft. Yeah, and that's the whole idea. That whole wing form, that blended wing draped over the fuselage, as opposed to coming up parallel to ground, or a little bit of angle to it. A whole different stance to it, I think, and I think that started to really set the formula for what this final piece is going to look like. So I'm really pleased that we took the time to go through the process. Not discouraged at all about the time factor, starting from square one, retooling it, looking at a new theme, massaging the theme, getting stronger with it, and overall, I think, much more effective approach. So I'll wrap this illustration up throughout the course of the week here before next Wednesday, and I'll show both again next Wednesday as final products, and then go from there. So we'll take it and call that a wrap. Just a lot of fun, and thank you so much, Antares, for being on board. It's always great to have you on board. I really sincerely appreciate your input. You've been an enormous help. And also, too, don't forget, if you've got some sketches to pass along, if I can help you in any way, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do so. We'll stay in touch. And I hope, like I said, are you still in school? Now, full time? What's the latest status with your with day-to-day stuff? If you don't mind me asking, please. So I imagine you're pretty busy if you are. But nonetheless, if you've got a minute and kind of chat back and forth and send some sketches, if I can be of any assistance, boy, I'd be happy to help you. Oh, also, too, we mentioned 2 weeks ago, if there's a subject matter, for example, let me just say this carefully, with a lot of respect. This is not an indictment nor a judgment. It's just a conversation. It's a full-time concept artist. That's tremendous. Good for you, Antares. That's outstanding concept. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff I'm moving toward too. These kind of programs, advanced concept art for gaming. We've got a good friend who does all that, so he kind of tunes in with me from time to time. So congrats, that's great. That's a great career. So all that to say, that if there's something that you need, would want me to kind of go into maybe a little explanation a little further, concept sketch rendering or things of that nature, please do not misunderstand. This is not a judgment. You're extremely capable, very well-crafted design guy. I'm not going to insult you in any way, shape, or form, but if there are little things along the way, just interested on what you were looking at and what kind of things that we can help you with along the way from a teaching point of view or a technique approach. In fact, I thought about this was it on Monday evening. I think I've gone through an awful lot of things here as far as multimedia, pastel marker, ballpoint pen, etc., and Prismacolor pencil sketches. But I think I'm going to do a show, maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, just strictly on the technique of marker application. How to change tempo, hand shifts, weight changes with marker, kind of to evaluate marker technique and how to work with it. There's a system to that Mead taught us with that, just absolutely amazing. You can take, for example, a number 2 gray, and by saturating it and changing the pressure on the hand angle, you can get down to about a 4 or 5 gray by just adding layers to it. So anyway, I might get into that kind of stuff too, but I am definitely going to go back in some educational pieces like circles and perspective and show you the theory, then the application. All that's coming. So again, really interesting stuff here. Hey, listen, don't feel like the Lone Ranger, Antares. I've been in this business for a long time, and I'm still amazed at how much I'm learning. Not amazed at it, I'm grateful for it. I'm getting a lot of different things that I'm seeing and I'm hearing. It's been just a great, terrific journey. So I've enjoyed it. As long as you're learning, you're moving ahead. I think that's what you're doing very well. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again before I wrap it up here today. Your last series of empathic sketches were absolutely phenomenal. Just so much improvement in the last few times we looked at some of the earlier pieces you did. It was outstanding. So good for you. And again, that wraps up for today, folks. There's the one we just finished. That's the final line drawing of the HS-108P hammerhead chart biomimicry piece that we've been working on for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We're out of the woods on that one. And that was the final illustration. It was ready to go. We get some copies of that. Get it in my file, my folder. And this is the one we're going to work on throughout the course of the week, and then we'll start a whole new discipline next week, landscape architecture. Show you some things that we've gone through, a whole range of areas of landscape architecture for next week. And then the following week, I think we'll do a whole advanced concept Lamborghini studies in watercolor, just to change technique. So it'll be a lot of fun. Anyhow, so much appreciate you having on board, Valdemar. All the best to you. Take care of yourself, and then drop me a note, and I'll do likewise in response. And in closing here today, please take a look at my website, drcontrast.com. Some new things added. We've got some things coming along. We had kind of a bit of a change of pace. We've been looking at the store for quite some time, but we're going to try to make some changes to that to make it better and get it up and running. Not there yet, but we're just looking at materials to do it the right thing and not rushing things along the way to get it done. So please look at my website, drcontrast.com. And if you have any notes or questions or concerns, please drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. It'd be terrific to hear from you. I'll respond in kind and do the best I can to kind of treat the system with a lot of respect for what's coming. Thanks for the stream, and take care. Till next time, all the best to you, Valdemar. And last but not least, when I sign off, I always state this, and I mean sincerely, the best part of the whole stream. Never forget to dare to be, never forget to dare to be great, because you are. Just be great. Have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday, and take care. Thank you.